Rogue.
Well, and hope your opponent doesn't hit the draws, which he does have one of them already, the Mountain Giant in hand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, back over to Dog. Doesn't seem like his hand's improving significantly. And Nyria just continue to tap. Doesn't really have much to play. I guess it's Sun Fury Protector on turn 3, unless he gets something else better.
Yeah. So, Cold Blood starting to see a lot more play now that Leroy is banned in this particular tournament. You do need to play. Oh, this is tough for him. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
Sun
can't. You need
Fury's
to just.
it's your only taunter, but something on the board is nice.
Yeah, it'll soak up some damage for your Mountain Giant. But yeah, without Leroy, you need some other way to just be able to deal 30 damage. And Gadgetzin is just a broken draw engine. Cold Bloods will do that for you. They'll win the game once you've drawn your deck and established board control as the Miracle Rogue. I agree with their decision to nerf Buzzard, I think, of all the pieces of Hunter, because yeah, that card draw is really what lets Hunter just do everything that it wants to do. Just have all the synergies every game. In that same note, if Miracle Rogue were to be nerfed, I think Gadgetzin is what you have to look at. It's got
Yeah,
a
the
clean
draw
answer.
engine that people complain a lot about, just how powerful it is, because you shouldn't be able to go. And that also pushed out a lot of other decks that were just way too slow. This was before Sludge Belchers and Next Ramus came out, though, so it's improved
Yeah.
a lot. But at the same time, I think it's all right. Not Dog dealing with the first giant immediately and sees a passive turn, so maybe this is an opportunity for him to start turning back.
Yep, Naria
He's
didn't
got
have
a lot of
back-to-back
damage.
cats.
Wow. Look how fast this dude plays. He's got Korean APM in Hearthstone.
Yeah,
You're
I
playing the
mean
wrong game, son.
that quick play is gonna get him blown out though. um, it just enabled Molten Giant. I mean, I don't think he had another line of play really, to be fair. Ooh,
Wow.
all right, Blade Flurry is a
Oh,
fantastic draw.
that
He
allows
can
him to
win.
have the reach. If he has Sinister Strikes in his deck, he's got Eviscerate. Maybe there's a way for him to do this right here, right now.
I think you giant coin Defender. He doesn't want to. Okay, he wants to save his coin so that he can heal up to 15 next turn, which I actually think is better. Yeah, that's a good play.
All right.
Just
Well,
Defender.
Dog needs a little bit of damage. Ooh.
Yeah,
Well,
bricks off. I mean, you're gonna take the damage from Molten Giant. Well, not through Senjin, but yeah, I would attack Molten Giant, clear the board, and play Senjin and hope he doesn't have another taunt. But yeah, because that Jiraxis, I don't think there's a way anymore for Dog to win. He made the right play. Like, he needed to draw a Shiv this turn, or a Spell Power creature, or an Eviscerate. He had a lot of outs, but it was still more likely that he bricked rather than he hit, I think. He also had a second SI agent.
well, this is actually the right move, it looks like, because if he uses his Blade Flurry and all-ins on this, the Jiraxis rebounds Nyria back up to 15, so holding is actually the right play from our perspective, but this is not an easy decision if you're Dog.
Yeah, it's a tough call for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, he's gonna wait. I mean, it does make. I mean, you still just Jiraxis and win. There's like no. There's no way to lose after you Jiraxis.
Can you win
Jiraxis
right
is so
here?
fun. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
I think you can. You just Soulfire you Shadow Flame and then you double Soulfire, right?
Yeah, he doesn't even
Do
need
you
the
even need it?
Jiraxis. Yeah, his double. Well, yeah, it's 11, 12, 13. Yeah, he's dead. Owl Defender. And then even if Soulfire discards Soulfire, you have lethal.
Yeah, it does the same thing too. Wow, look at that. Dog's gonna drop 2 games very quickly. And Soulfire didn't discard the other Soulfire or Jiraxis. What is going on? How is that even possible?
Yeah, no, must be bugged.
Uh,
So yeah, not Blade Flurrying, I think was the right play. Gave him a better chance of winning, but it ended up getting him killed there. Dog played that pretty well. He needed to draw something like 30% of his deck on that last draw that he had, and didn't end up getting there, but still very well played.
Wow, tough breaks for Dog, but the handlock's proving to be quite the problematic matchup, and Naria is sitting very comfortably on a 2-0 lead. Of course, this is the whole point of the format, is you're not able to just play handlock the entire way and sweep your way through. Naria is going to have to eventually switch decks. But I don't think
Yep.
he will. I think you're in a pretty good spot. Like you said, it's good, and if it gets you 3 wins, you just have to win 1 and the rest against the with your priest or druid. So it seems to be like in a pretty comfortable spot for Naria.
And Dog was visibly upset when he saw that Nyria picked Handlock again because he knew that, that's obviously not the matchup you want as the rogue. I think that Dog should just play whatever deck has the best Handlock matchup, and if Nyria happens to play one of his other decks, then good for Dog. But you have to just go with whatever has the best chance against your worst matchup. Because if I'm Nyria, I would just play that 3 times in a row. There's just so little
All
reason
right.
not to.
And with that said, game 3 will begin now as Dog is queued up and ready to go. And I think you're right. You have to just play more on the surface level here. I think you did say it correctly when Dog might have overthought the situation. Well, if he picks this, he wants to save Handlock, try to sneak another win. Now he picks Paladin immediately, and this is where Naria switches and saves Handlock in his back pocket. And look at this opening, Innervate and Wild Growth. Wow, he is
Yeah, it's
happy with that too. Who would
that's
have
an
thought?
awesome hand. Ramp, like if you get
People
Wild
say
Growth,
that
I mean, the
people say
difference between
that
having
Naria is like Kalento 2.0, but he smiles way more than Kalento, so I don't know. I don't know about that.
they're both androids from the future sent back in time to destroy Hearthstone Ladder on the European server. Very little emotion shown. But yeah, I mean, you can't. How can you be sad when you draw Wild Growth as the Ramp Druid? It's just what a card. Like when you draw Wild Growth in your opening hand, you're actually playing a broken deck. When you don't draw Wild Growth, you're playing not that good of a deck, but that's okay. 'Cause,
Oh, it is the
yeah.
Yetis. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, I told you it's a double
It is.
Yeti deck.
Yeah, I didn't say you were wrong. I just say I remember seeing scenarios and other stuff like that, so I don't recall the Yetis.
Yeah. Well, it is a little different than I thought though, because he's only playing one copy of the Force of Nature combo. So it's kind of like a slower ramp deck with 2 Yetis. Yeti's a sweet card though. Hmm. I would
He
play
doesn't
Aqua.
have Golden Yeti though, so it's clearly not his main account. He's playing on NA.
Yep. Let's
Ooh.
see.
All right. Well, Innervate can really make some powerful moves here. Ancient,
big-
Sunwalker Ancient, but you don't think it's time for it?
I mean, yeah, I would. I'm a big fan of innervating Ancient War as soon as possible because I like getting it down before the turn my opponent has Black Knight mana. Almost every time. So like if I have both Ancients, I'll play the War first. And sometimes your opponent goes Mark of the Wild Big Game Hunter, but most of the time you get to at least attack once with your guy. And it puts you in a good spot. Those Yetis are so
Too
good.
soon, Ray. Too soon. Yeah, the Yetis here are able to shut down whatever Dog does pretty effectively. And then from here, you stack the board with Sunwalker and whatever Ancient comes out. And then you have the ability to refill your hand too. So the card advantage is a lot less significant than you think it is. You don't be fooled the fact that Dog has 8 cards in his hand. Nyria has Ancient of Lore, which is really powerful.
Since he didn't innervate the Ancient of War, now what he's going to do on turn 7 is play Ancient of Lore, and then on turn 8 he'll play just like other stuff, Sunwalker, Hero Power, Wrath, Swipes, cards like that he draws. So that Ancient of War isn't coming down until he has like 10 mana. And at that point, Dog is going to be so far into his deck, he'll be so likely to have the Black Knight. So Nyria's basically going to try to bait out the Black Knight, I think, with other taunts first, But even if your Sunwalker is getting Black Knighted, it's not great for you. I feel like you should have innervated the War right away, but I see the thinking behind just dropping Yeti as well. It kind of plays your Yeti when it's at its best on turn, like in the mid game, not really. You don't want to play like a turn 10 Yeti. It's not very good either.
Man. Wow, what
That's
a
not
weak
pretty.
turn. Oh man, a consecration was a 2-mana cleave. Or sorry, a 4-mana cleave, excuse me. 2-mana cleave is exactly what cleave is. Oh, and Dog gets a Black Knight, so I guess that's good. And Sunwalker Spirit is an ideal target, but to get that off is a good momentum swing here for Dog. And he still has answers to the Ancient of Lore that isn't it. You can silence it and do 5 damage that way, as much as you don't get the full Black Knight value. At least it's something still.
And now you definitely play War. They know each other's lists, so Nyria knows that Dog only has, the one Spellbreaker. It's not super likely he has the Silence. Fantastic Sylvanas right here. So yeah, now
Oh, that's
Nyria
right.
desperately needs Keeper, but he just doesn't have it. This is so good for Dog. That Sylvanas is insane. Oh man. The sequencing of creatures mattered so much this game. He's gonna go aggressive. He does have Druid of the Claw and Swipe. It's a lot of burst.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
surprising amount, and his opponent's at 14 health, which puts him at a pretty low rate. But there are double belchers here in Dog's hands, so it's not as easy as picking up the combo and ending it.
Dog is trying to think about, is there some way I can play around Nyria having the Force of Nature combo next turn? Can I afford to play around it? Because he has a very good play here where he can silence the Ancient War and just, trade with a 5/5 and Elder Peacekeeper, whatever creature's left over, but he's doing the math on how much damage do I take from Force of Nature combo? Can I play around it? He's decided that no, he can't. And not the best RNG there. It takes Yeti. He definitely would have preferred the 5/5, but not too big of a difference. And it's luckily for him, Nyria does not have the Force combo. But he does have a Cenarius, and he does have 8 points of burst, so yeah, he's playing this ramp deck very aggressively. He's got that huge life total lead. This is definitely exactly what he wants to be doing in this position.
Yeah, he has the ability to push through whatever taunt comes out to and add that damage, so very important. Now, at the same time, Dog, if he can keep up with what's on board, he still has some pretty quality mid-range minions. And Iria was I was saying he was holding some mid-range creatures too to match it and didn't really have the edge, but Sylvanas in the hand is so big. Oh my goodness.
Nyria there decided to swipe the Acolyte instead of the Spellbreaker to deny one draw. But the drawback to that is, now Dog has a 4-power creature in play instead of a 1/2. And that's going to be able to take out your Ancient War. It's going to be able to take out one of your 5/5s with the addition of like 1 point of damage from Wild Pyromancer, Consecrate, something like that. So it's interesting how much he values. Yeah, it's awesome. So he just really values keeping Dog's hand size low. Even through Lotheb, though, Equality's going to handle the board, and Ramp Drew is just going to get right back to dropping Haymakers. Oh, it's interesting.
Hovering over Druid the Claw instead, opting to be aggressive.
Yeah, I like this. So you can play PGH in the same turn. It's a fantastic play. A lot of people would have just played Ancient of War there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a game.
Well, yeah, the Keeper of the Grove allows the silence, and then you're able to push to whatever taunt. And this set up the lethal. So a nice spot here for Nyria to give himself the opportunity to kill his opponent. And Dog is now down 0-3. Nyria's reign of terror is continuing. The guy came out with a strong showing in VGVN. And was unfortunately stopped in the grand finals by Savitz. But I think another great showing here, coming out through the rounds, and now up 3-0 over Dog. Very impressive.
And definitely. I think if you're Nyria, you're just going to go with Handlock for the last game. That's what I would do. And try to close out the series in a decisive fashion. 4-0. It's, yeah, ultimately it just comes down to deck selection, I feel like. I don't think Paladin is that bad against Ramp Druid, but you know, Nyria did have a fantastic draw. He had the opening hand Wild Growth. Like, Paladin's just not going to be favored against a draw like that. He not only had the Wild Growth, but I think he drew into the Yeti, so it was just like the absolute dream curve for Nyria. Like, he couldn't have been much better. Um, but yeah, like Dog's decks aren't that well equipped. It looks like to deal with hands, and that's kind of biting him. You know, his first two losses were because of that. I feel like.
Well, now it's come down to game four. Game three was, yeah, like you said, sometimes you can't do anything because the cards line up. But now he needs to turn it back right here. What's it going to be for Dog going to game four and see if he's going to stick on this Paladin or can he switch to something else? And it looks like he'll turn to his Rogue deck, and Navriel will stay on the Ramp Druid.
So this favors Rogue for sure, especially with the double Cold Bloods. Um, Nyria, if he draws Wild Growth, then he becomes favored against Rogue. I would say if he doesn't draw Wild Growth on turn two, then I think Dog is heavily favored in this matchup.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and the Assassin's Blade, of course, is another way to put in the damage. So a lot of times you don't need the Leroy because of how much you're able to get. Like Sap is really strong against those single targets that Druid always drops. And then, oh, the
That's
hesitation.
no. No. Whatever. That's not a big deal, I guess. I don't like that attack. You never like the thing with the Druid matchup is you're never gonna be like short damage on killing them. It's just a matter of do you draw like a way to get ahead on board and start sapping their guys for lethal. So that 1 point of damage that he gets, like it just isn't gonna ever make the difference between winning or losing. Whereas if he were to draw like an SI agent here, he could play that, you know, and if his weapon was just short of durability, that would be really awkward for him later on if he drew a deadly poison and he was trying to curve out with like Senjins and Azure Drakes. So it's kind of a small thing, but in certain matchups, attacking turn two with your dagger is correct, but it really depends on how your rogue deck is built and which matchup. Against Druid, you never need that extra point of damage.
All right, well, that's cool insight. Never really knew. I always thought that if you didn't really have a turn three play, then attacking with the dagger was inconsequential. In fact, you might have missed the damage.
The thing is, you
And
can always draw a turn three play, even if you don't have one.
that's true.
It's like just risk reward is what it is. The reward
I
is
think
zero because the damage
you
never
bring up a
matters.
good point, where if the damage doesn't matter, especially since Druid often heals up for the one, that might not matter. But against like Hunter or the Mirror especially, that does matter. Dog picks up Sap, which is important, but Nyria was able to get some very powerful plays here. Oh,
I like his conceal
conceal.
here. It's definitely
Nice.
correct. It's interesting that he chose to use backstab last turn instead of attacking the big game hunter. Oh wow, that's so good for him that he concealed because that Black Knight was about to kill the single taunt creature in Dog's deck. Looks like it's still going to be getting value next turn. But Dog is getting a good amount of damage in, and Druid is just very bad at like once it falls behind on board, it basically becomes impossible to kill the creatures and develop your own in the same turn. Because Druid's removal is so expensive.
Yeah, they don't have the privy of mass removal, similar to how Warrior is able to use Brawl or something equivalent to that. Um, and
Yeah,
not to mention that there's ways for Rogue to easily deal with things that are going on with Sap and whatnot.
Dog's already at 15 just from attacking minions. He he's so scared of just like leaving that 5-1 up. What if Nyria has combo pieces, you know? I agree with this play though. You go face, you play Van Cleef, and then you conceal your creatures. I don't think he wants to trade here.
The remote possibility that your opponent has Innervate combo.
Yeah, you just can't afford to play around it at this point. All right, so Nyria is going to play a taunt, and Dog is going to hope to draw some way to get through it.
Maybe second Sap.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, he does have the 3 damage in hand, so that combined with the 12 on board is 15. If you can put enough buffer between you and your opponent's board, you can maybe survive. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's got to be Ancient of War. There's just no other
Yeah.
play here. He's considering like Ancient Allure heal instead, I think. I think it's just more likely your opponent has 4 damage than they have their second copy of Sap, though. Neria
I
isn't
think
happy.
so. There's they can use they can use like Sinister Strike #2 or Eviscerate with whatever combos. I think this feels like the overall strongest play. Dog picks up Cold Blood, so he
That's a
can
great
push
draw.
through. Yeah,
It
that's
lets
the 4
him do
damage
what
to
needs to
trade
know.
1 for 1.
So now you have to trade, so you don't just die to half of the Druid deck. You don't want to die to Druid of the Claw Swipe, that kind of stuff. And it looks, I mean, I don't know. Probably
Ooh.
looks better for Nyria than it does for Dog at this point.
He has double keeper, so he can keeper, remove, be alive barely. See what he gets
It's going to come
off of
down
the
to whether
Wrath,
Dog
though.
draws damage or not. Oh, it's not going to do too much. He's going to heal rather than killing the creature, which is good because
Okay.
killing the SI removes 3, healing gains 5. Did
4
Dog
damage
draw
he's looking for.
Shiv
Hmm.
into Gadget? Oh man. He's just going to throw it out there. That's an interesting choice. He has Sinister Strikes in
Well,
this deck. I would have held
yeah,
on to
but
it.
it's over though, I believe,
He's
because of
dead.
Swipe and Keeper the Grove. Or even just hero power. Doesn't even matter. Now Rhea's gonna 4-0 here, and Dog needed the 4 damage, but he fell a little bit short off that Shiv and got Gadgets and Auctioneer. And dominant performance once again from Nyria in his second major tournament in public showing.
Yep, well played. It's interesting to see just how much the deck building has been affected by the ban of Starving Buzzard and Leroy in this tournament, and you're starting to see a lot more like minion interaction and people trying to bypass that with Miracle Rogue. But yeah, well played. I think next time Dog will need to probably just have a deck that's a little bit better prepared for handlock, so he doesn't just give 2 games away to that early. But yeah, I mean, well played. I think by both players in the series. I don't think there were any huge mistakes made in any of the
Yeah,
games.
there was definitely some tough calls made by Dog despite losing 0-4 that he made correctly and unfortunately didn't fall in his favor. That's just card games. That's just Hearthstone. So you can't get too upset about it, although I'm sure he's not very happy with how the result is. 0-4, once again, not indicative of the skill that he demonstrated getting here. Getting to round 6, getting to the quarterfinals, in fact, to the round number 7. It's an accomplishment in itself. So Dog is exiting out here, but a lot of his fans should be happy at least being able to place top 8 is pretty notable in the stack tournament like this.
Absolutely. So, who is our next match on the brackets?
All right. Well, Colento has lost to Silent Storm, which I'll ask you about that guy in a sec when we cast his match. But because Colento has lost, he is going to fall to the quarterfinals and play Semi-Jew as I believe our next quarterfinals. So we're not going into the semis directly. We're going to Nyria versus the winner of this series eventually. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get our next quarterfinals lined up here for Prismatic Cup 2. Stay tuned, guys. Welcome back, everybody, to Prismata Cup number two. I hope you guys enjoyed that ad, and you saw in the chat that Alex was letting you guys know how to sign up for the beta. And it's important to support our sponsors so that way more cups can come out. And what I really appreciate about Prismata is that they're trying to take several different approaches, not only with format, not only with like deck lists that you guys saw and making it available to the public, but also even how they're making it merit-based competition, trying to invite based off performances off ladder, off other tournaments, off of notoriety, and mixing it up. We do have our next match, which is Kalinto versus Semiju, which should be another fun best of seven in the quarterfinals. And this is one where name recognition starts coming back in more. Semiju, a guy who made an impression at WEC qualifiers, and now he has an opportunity to test himself against one of the hottest players in recent memory, which is Kalinto.
Definitely should be an exciting series. I'm interested to see. Every player so far has had very different decks because of this format. We're seeing two different players play Miracle Rogue, but they differed by like 10 cards. One had Shade and Extramus, Violet Teachers. Dogs had like Senjin, Assassin's Blade. They're very different ways to build decks. The format hasn't really been figured out yet with the bans. So it'll be cool to see what Kalento and Semiju have decided to go with. I'm expecting like more of Strife Crow's Druid deck from Kalento. It's a deck he's a big fan of and very good at playing. So aside from that, I'm not really sure what to expect though. Hopefully Handlock. I think that deck is underrated.
Underrated. Well, it's been one of the most dominant decks, considering that people have been banning Hunter for several weeks now. And when Hunter's gone, like you mentioned, Handlock can roam free. Let's
Only
look
one
at
of
the
the
class lineup, and it's mirrored. Oh, wow. Oh, what were you
yeah.
saying? Sorry,
Oh,
before you finish that
Handlock.
thought.
Only one of the four players we've seen so far had it. Two players had Zoo. One player didn't have Warlock at all. But 100% win rate so far. So yeah, we'll see if.
Now, I was saying in other tournaments, Handlock has been very popular for quite some
Oh,
time. Even
yeah.
looking back to like a month ago at the HyperX Invitational, I remember Handlock was doing really good. Like the top three players all played Handlock, and the rest of
Yep.
the five players didn't bring Handlock.
Yeah, definitely. It was yeah, it's a very popular tournament deck. Yeah, in a band format, just fantastic. Looks like Klento and Semiju both have Warlock, but in our first match, both players had Zoo, so it's tough to really say whether these decks will be Zoo or Handlock. I know Kalento's a big fan of Zoo. Semiju, I'm not too sure though. Both have
Yeah,
Priest.
Simichu played Zoo last time I saw him bring Warlock, so I don't know for sure. But he also can play Handlock, 'cause I know MYM players do like that deck a lot. RDU and Tice both favor Handlock a lot when they're playing in tournaments. So I would maybe say that it's Handlock considering the format of the tournament here.
It's interesting that both players have Priest. I don't think it's a class we've seen yet be played so far in this format. Priest is a deck people were sort of turning to as something with a favorable matchup against Hunter. And even though Buzzard is banned and you expect to see a lot less Hunter, it's interesting that they're still picking it in this format where one of their better matchups is not really prevalent anymore. But both these players made it through a really tough Swiss event to get to top eight at this point. So clearly, it's been working out for them. We'll see how it works out here.
Yeah, Priest, I've seen it a lot on ladder. People are saying that it's the dominant deck along with, well, for before tomorrow, it's Hunter, obviously. But Priest, even more than a ladder deck, has also started to perform well in tournaments. And players like Brian Kibler from Brian Kibler fame has also been playing it a lot on stream and posting it with lots of different variations, including putting in cards like Ysera and Mind Control to help improve its late game. So I don't know if it's that variant or more of a control style, which is scaled back defensively, which is now starting to become popular to counter not only those priests, but also because of the way the metagame slowed down. So there's room for it. I'm not sure if it's a control priest. We didn't get to even see priest from Nyria, which was kind of disappointing. But maybe Klento can whip out something new here and surprise us all. Or Semiju. Don't want to write him off.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder, as the Paladin decks too have been so differently, have been built so differently so far. Everyone's Paladin. One had double Owl, double Humility.
Yep.
We'll
And
see how
one
these
even had
go.
a Nixia.
Yeah, it's true. Nixia. A lot of cool builds. Golden Paladin hero. Try
You
hard.
know, he's yeah. Well,
I
good
don't
for
even know.
him. He's got to make a name somehow.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Or is that Golden Priest? I don't know if. All right,
It
well,
wouldn't
let's see.
surprise me if Kalento had Golden Priest, but neither of these guys have golden cards, which I feel like is the big travesty here. How are you going to have a golden hero without golden cards?
I like that decision actually. I'm a fan of either 30 golden cards or 0 golden. I don't like the mix. Throws me
Well,
off.
yeah, but I feel like you need to go for it all. If you have golden hero, you got to get the golden cards.
They're just being fiscally responsible. I can respect that.
Is someone injured?
He's got to win some more tournaments, Semi Drew does, in order to match it. That's what, that's what he needs to do. Well, Paladin versus Priest. This matchup is difficult for the Priest, but there's ways for you to scale really well if you have Thought Steal and take very valuable cards. That's one of your ways that you can improve the matchup a ton. But it's always scary because the Thought Steals could also whiff, and you can get pretty weak things from your opponent.
Yeah, playing that Thought Steal on curve is going to make him very vulnerable to Consecrate. So I'm not sure if he'll go with it. I guess he would eat a coin and a Consecrate from his opponent. I would probably Thought Steal. I think it's better than not playing it. See if
Oh
he gets...
my. You got Kel'Thuzad. Now, this is a
Humility.
card that...
Is Kel'Thuzad is cool, but like Humility, this is exactly the card you want every time you Thought Steal from Paladin. Humility or Peacekeeper, because it lets your Cabal Shadow Priest just win the game. You have 6 mana mind controls now. That's crazy. What are you saying
Yes.
about Kel'Thuzad though?
Well, I was saying that Kel'Thuzad was interesting because I know RDU ran it, and he used it to win deck wars. And Kel'Thuzad was a card where originally people thought like, oh, you can get amazing value, but then felt like it wasn't really a good fit. But then perhaps RDU was like, no, this is really good, so you should use it, and he probably did. Oh, Kalento thinking over. I think you do bring up a good point there. I think if you saw the Deck Wars Season 2 finals, there was a game where Koyuki took Peacekeeper and Humility, I think, and then was able to like take his opponent's Tyrion and then use Sylvanas and Shadow Word Death to steal again, and then he also had Mind Control. There was 3 Mind Controls in the deck, effectively. It was pretty bananas.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, even though Priest does have, you know, a decent amount of early game, it's just interesting to see like how favored it is going long against Paladin just because of the Thought Steals. That card is just so sick in control matchups. He's probably just gonna opt to play another Belcher here. Now, when there's Belchers facing each other, the best play is usually to just not attack. He could attack here, I guess, because of the powered shield, but that exposes him to the second True Silver Champion. It's not super likely that... I think, no, you have Kel'Thuzad. Maybe you want to just wait. You definitely want your Belchers in play when you play Kel'Thuzad. Maybe that would overcommit into equality. That's a tough call. I don't know if you attack or not. It's probably 50-50.
Yeah. By the way, Sludge Belcher's one of the best card, or one of the worst cards to fight against Sludge Belchers. It actually takes 3 attacks to clear 1, which is funny to me. But,
That attack actually plays around Spellbreaker, which is pretty awesome. Makes that card a little bit less effective. He got some value out of his Belcher before it gets silenced, if it gets silenced.
I feel like the Spellbreaker is a really valuable card, though, because you know your opponent runs Sylvanas and other really important Death Battle creatures.
That is true. Sylvanas you can like play around with just an equality sweep, though. And it's kind of the only creature in Priest worth silencing, aside from Sludge Belcher. Pretty much in any build of Priest, I would say. Unless he plays like Ysera, maybe.
That's true. You don't
You know-
always get the guaranteed value of playing around Sylvanas either, because Priest could hold it as a 9-mana mind control in combination with Shadow Word Death, so sometimes it's not always worth waiting for it.
These players do know each other's lists, so Semi-G knows that Kalento doesn't have Ysera. It's more just a standard, like... Not even... Yeah, it's just like a standard control Priest with 1 mind control in place of the 1 Ragnaros. I'm a big fan of Kalento's decision not to play Ragnaros because... I just don't like watching games be decided on coin flips on that card. But it really is just it's like an interesting deck building choice because with the cards he's chosen to include, he knows what they'll do every time. With a card like Ragnaros, it's highly variable how good it's going to be for you. Drew a couple spells, you know, Circle of Healing into Shadow Madness. It's not really what he wanted to see because he really, on his turn 8, he spent 1 mana on spells. And that definitely can't feel great. Semi-Ju might just slam this Tyrion and get wrecked by the Humility. Nobody
Yeah,
ever.
the Humility plus the Cabal Shadow Priest is gonna get insane value if he goes for this. But his alternative plays seem not that strong, so he goes for Tyrion immediately, but this is gonna be amazing for Colento.
Yeah, he's gonna be like Semi-Ju's probably gonna be forced to board clear after this, maybe even silence Tyrion and then board clear. This is just insane because you know nobody ever
Wow.
plays around cards that can be thought stolen because it's
you
usually just
can't.
not right.
You can't. There's just too many variables.
Exactly.
I mean, you do have a sense the ability to still faceless and silence, but the fact is your opponent now you have to deal with a 6/6 creature, and your opponent also has Kael'thasad value, which is hilarious. Like if he's able to kill off Tyrion, somehow he gets it back.
Is there a way to? Yeah, there is. You can trade off Sludge Belcher, and maybe that's just overextending into the board though. What he really
Yeah, that's
wants to do
true.
here is kill off Tyrion with Shadow Madness. And I think he can, right? Like you attack Sludge
Yep.
Belcher into it, and then Cabal.
Yeah, and then you Shadow Madness it into the Spellbreaker. You get the 5/3 weapon, 3/5 weapon, anyways, or 5/3 weapon. Excuse me.
Kel'Thuzad is surprisingly weak against Paladin because maybe super late game after they use both the qualities it's good, but in order to get full Kel'Thuzad value, you need to have a board and then play your Kel'Thuzad. And Paladin can really punish that with a quality combo. So he's basically just doesn't want to overextend with Kel'Thuzad here, and he's probably going to play it when both players are in fatigue.
Wow. Look at this.
Yeah.
Gets the clear, able to get a 5/2 weapon. Now he is susceptible to Harrison Jones, which is another funny thing considering that's a card that's commonly rotated. But look at how much pressure he's able to put and show lethal on the board. Semi-Ju has to clear here.
I like attacking face there with the weapon. This is fine too, though.
Doesn't even get the full clear.
Yeah.
Sludge Belcher
Belcher.
keeping the dream alive.
What a sick card. Do you think maybe playing Pyromancer there instead of the Consecration would have been better? Because on the Consecration, I don't know, maybe that's just a better card than Pyro to have in hand.
Yeah, Pyro seems a little more flexible. If he had the opportunity to, you have that 1 damage sweep with the lay on hands and heal yourself back up.
That's true.
I like dropping Kel'Thuzad here. I've also kind of come off of the idea that Kel'Thuzad needs to just get like the game-winning blow of like a big board. Just having it as a 6/8 to challenge whatever comes out, plus the fact that now your other creatures are unkillable.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Still
mostly
really
like an
powerful.
Boulder Fist Ogre in a lot of cases. It's definitely not a bad card, though. It's just, it's the perfect stats. It's not vulnerable to Big Game Hunter or Black Knight or Silence. It's pretty much just like Hex. It's one of your only good answers for it.
Alright, well, Colento can just continue to press advantage. No need to rush whatsoever. Knows his opponent needs to have a quality number 2 to deal with his Kel'Thuzad.
Absolutely.
Oh my god. You know what's crazy is Sylvanas and Shadow Word Death, and Sylvanas comes back at the end of the turn. That is just crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So it's not like you even lose to... Oh man. Oh my god, because then oh, this is gonna be ridiculous. Let me tell you right now, this is gonna be sick. Oh, get out of here, Kel'Thuzad.
It's gonna be some
Sweet
PJ Soft
value.
after this turn. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, bro.
Yeah.
You know what? This is what Thoughtsteal did too. This is what Thoughtsteal, he gave him the Kel'Thuzad, and this has been a disaster for Semiju. He can't do anything. He's got 2 Sylvanas. What is going on?
Yep.
What happened? A turn ago, it was just a sludge. That's all it was. It was just a 1/2 token.
At least we got Harrison value. Oh. Well, that's
Needed
game.
quality. Yeah, that was the only thing needed. And Semiju just got destroyed by his own cards. Humility plus the Cabal Shadow Priest and Kel'Thuzad have been the sole culprits of everything here. Giving Kalento the Ashbringer, giving him the Kel'Thuzad and 2 Sylvanas. Oh boy. What a game 2 here. Or
Yeah.
game 1 rather? Was that game 1?
I think
That was game 1.
it might have been. Yep. Well, that's cool to see. So if you're Semiju here, I wonder if you go with Paladin again, or if you just pick into one of your other decks. Like, Kalento's, I mean, it's so random, right? Like, you just don't know what your opponent's going to pick because there's no advantage or disadvantage into really going with anything. So I think for your
In
Semiju,
the mirror. Yeah.
you just pick the deck that has the best overall chances against the 3 decks Kalento has. If you're Kalento, you just do the same thing, go with whatever you're comfortable with. If that is a handlock, then picking Priest is a little scary. But if Semiju's Warlock deck is Zoo, then picking Priest is just fine. Really just depends.
Yeah, and from Semiju's perspective, Kalento bring Handlock, Priest, and Paladin. Paladin seems to be the best chance overall, because at worst it's a mirror 50-50. If, assuming your decks are built similarly. Game 2 is prepared. I don't know if Kalento can get similar thought steals like he did last game, or the equivalent of that. 2 perfect cards for the scenario. But at the same time, it's all about not only getting the cards, but recognizing the best places to use it. As it looks like we'll go Handlock versus Paladin.
There we go. I'm excited to see Handlock. So Semiju knows which Warlock deck this is because they've seen each other decks, so he knows exactly what he wants to mulligan for. Big Game Hunter, it's exactly what he wants to see in his opening hand. He even has True Silver, which is pretty useful when the Warlock goes second. It lets you kill their turn 3 play, which is usually an Earthen Ring Farseer. Coin life tap here is
Kalento's
definitely
hand.
correct.
Yeah, his hand was looking really poor.
Flame Defender, Vargas. Oh, there we go. Equality. Best possible card that he could have seen. So, in terms of just hand quality, Semiju's is looking much better right now, but oh no. Why? This is just going to die to True Silver, and now he can't play Mountain Giant on time. And he's sacrificing 2 draws to develop this. This is not correct. I mean, yeah.
Well, if he taps and gets Mountain Giant, he still can play it, I believe.
No, he can't. Well, this turn if he taps, yeah. But if you're tapping this turn, why not tap last turn and then play Watcher this turn?
Yeah.
Okay, so this True Silver is just going to wreak havoc now. It's not what Kalento wanted to see.
He still also doesn't have a turn 4 play. This is pretty hard
well,
to deal with.
By playing it the way he did, he halved the amount of chances he had to have a turn 4 play. Like, he couldn't drive Mountain Giant this turn now. It's still unlucky because he didn't get a Twilight Drake. I didn't see what he mulliganed away in his opening hand. I'm going to assume it was everything because I don't think I would keep anything. It's not a Twilight Drake or a Mountain Giant against Paladin.
He kept the owl. I remember that.
And now he's behind.
Wow.
Like, the thing is, Handlock is not a control deck. It's a mid-range aggro deck, and you need to mulligan for your threats because you play so few of them. You're gonna get the support cards either way. You don't need Owl to win the game, but you do need a turn 4 play to win the game.
Oh boy. Getting harder and harder. Well, it's something to do.
Yeah. Double Siphon, also kind of limiting his options.
Hmm.
I'm a fan of the one Siphon, one Black Knight split, especially in a tournament like this that's gonna have less Hunter. But Siphon Soul is still fine. I think he would prefer a Black Knight next turn for Senjin though.
Well, Semiju has a quality and consecration, so there's no fear really of pressing too far as long as you don't get your board completely wiped, because you
Yeah,
have the
Semi
ability to press through.
Semiju
Man,
drew really well this game. Like even if Kalento had the turn four play, Semiju had the big game Hunter. He had the equality. Like Twilight Drake was Kalento's best turn four play, considering what Semiju's hand was. But he could have even fought through that most likely.
gosh, he can't even play most of his hand because a lot of it is spells. Has to rely on these ancient watchers to do work.
It's a good play though. We'll see if that's enough to slow Paladin down. The thing about the Paladin deck is, like, because it has equality, it doesn't really have to play around Molten Giant. Like, you can just go face, drop your opponent low, and yeah, we can. Oh, looks like there we go. We're back now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, just a little lag POV. Apologies. All right. Semiju keeps Equality and Pyromancer as a way to reset the board. Not to mention, just like you said, he's got the perfect answers. He's not afraid of Molten Giants whatsoever, and for good reason. Here we go. Finally, some traction. Well, still feels like a Molten Giant Siphon Soul ability to take out the 5/5 for sure.
Yep, that's his only play here for sure. This game looks very
Alright.
good for Semiju right now. He's gonna big game Hunter here.
Bam.
Yeah. Oh, to be fair, he doesn't have anything else to develop, like no Sludge Belcher, so it could be worse for Kleno. He can Hellfire to
There's
clear
no.
this board up, develop a Belcher.
It's not like Paladin has ways to really press to kill the damage without weapon. No one's running or Venging Wrath, and if you do, you've also seen it in the deck list, so you're prepared for it. I'm not ready to write this one off yet, but it is dangerous for Kalento, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not over. Kleno drew pretty badly this game, honestly. Like, he didn't have a turn 4 play on time. If he had Twilight Drake, I think he would actually be very far ahead this game. But, yeah, on top of that, he's drawn
Man.
both Soul Fires, which is not what you want.
Okay, Tyrion, is there Faceless and Silence? Oh no, sorry, I was thinking of the Paladin deck that we saw earlier. Kalento can deal with this, but it does come at a cost. The weapon is so powerful.
I guess you... okay, I think you have to Siphon and play Farseer. And next turn, just set up a big Mountain Giant with Taunt, or a Sludge Belcher, one of the two. I just don't see another option here. You could go for a big Mountain Giant this turn, I guess. With Belcher. Oh, this is... yeah, I mean... okay, this might be better. It just leaves you dead to a Silence, but not necessarily,
Oh.
I guess.
The Silence has arrived. Just
Yeah, I
on
mean, like-
time, and Semiju has ended the game.
It was a risky play, but it probably gave Kleno a better chance of winning. I think it was a good play, even though it got him killed. So yeah. All right. Well, solid draw from Paladin, pretty weak draw from Handlock, and that'll tie it up 1-1. Looks like Semiju is just sticking with Paladin, and I like that strategy. I think you identify a deck that has the best overall matchup, and you just pick it 3 times in a row. Then you move on to the next deck.
Yeah, it makes you a little bit more predictable, but like we said before, it seems to be pretty decently strong against the rest of Kalento's decks overall. And his hand was exactly the one you needed to stop that deck in particular. That's partially why that's actually a large reason why the Paladin deck, when people write out the percentages on that big chart of spreadsheets, they say that the hand lock is slightly unfavored against it because of the way Paladin can ignore their threats. And especially if they're playing BGH, tilts the percentages in their favor even more. So when you line those draws up, there's some things that the handlock can't do because the paladin's doing too much pressure. Kalento from here has the option to go back to whatever deck he wants, but keep in mind if Semiju plays his paladin one more time, he can't play it for the rest of the series.
Yep, that does give some merit to picking a different deck. So you can pick into Paladin later, like you mentioned in the first match of today, but I'd probably just go with Paladin again. Doesn't even necessarily make you predictable, right? I mean, Kaleno might think to himself, surely no one would pick the same deck 3 times in a row. And then
Right. You don't want to throw it away because you never know if you need to summon the paladin sometime later in the series because it might be like say you're able to get other wins, you go for the paladin for the highest percentage way to close out the series. So,
yeah, it's only like 3 more wins for either player before the series ends. So even if Semiju won 2 more games with his other decks, he's probably not going to eliminate one of Kalento's decks. So no matter what, I feel like Kaleno's going to have all 3 decks at his disposal, and whether for this game or later, Semiju's going to have the same amount of information to work with about what Kaleno's going to pick, which is absolutely nothing. So I would pick Paladin, but yeah, we'll see. I don't think anything's a horrible pick here, honestly. Let's get into the game and see if the players want with.
sounds good to me. Game 3 will be Priest versus the Handlock. Or is it? Okay, sorry, I mixed it up. It is Priest versus Handlock. But with these guys at the mirror, it was hard to tell who was playing what on the opening portrait screen. And Kalento gets a good starting hand here, what looks like it to be. Now, there is a pretty decent starting hand for Semiju, very easy to pick up with the nature of the death battles. But against a deck like this, I feel like the Tempo Priest plays more into its weaknesses against the Handlock player, especially because they've cut a lot of their finishing spells, often used to get through the last points of damage when those Molten Giants come out with Taunters.
Yep, Kalento has a Twilight Drake in his opening hand, and in my experience, I think this means it's almost impossible for him to lose the match. Or, I mean, like this particular game. I don't like coining here because now he has no good play next turn. But it does give him the chance to draw a Loot Hoarder. But yeah, it makes some sense. Just get on the board quickly against Handlock, try to win that way. But yeah, Kalento's hand is fantastic. Like, you just play turn 4 Drake, turn 5 you life tap and play Mountain Giant, or just play Sludge Belcher. And yeah, right, Priest just won't be able to keep up with that.
Just so many threats. And there's only one Shadow Word Death, too. That was cut in the process of elimination for Semiju. If you're cutting a death, that's just how are you going to deal with these big giants? I have no idea. It's going to be really tough for Semiju. Now, he can use a board presence to snowball it, but there's a lot of ways for Kalento to deal with it as well.
Mm-hmm. He drew a second Twilight Drake, too, which is actually a better turn 5 play than Sludge Belcher or Mountain Giant, I think, because there's no good way for Priest to interact with it. Almost no Priest play Silence. They do play Shadow Word Death, so there's a little bit of risk associated with playing Mountain Giant. Semiju's, a little hesitant to play Injured Blade Master. He's scared of Hellfire. Kalento doesn't have it, so I do think that it's correct for him to play it. So here you go, Drake Soulfire on the 4/3. Yep. Okay. And then, yeah, just play Drake again next turn, maybe Belcher. Turn 6, you could go Life Tap Drake. Kalento's in a fantastic spot. It's very tough for him to lose in this position.
Oh, well, he's got Zombie Chow Burst potential here.
He does. Kalento doesn't have a Defender or a Mortal Coil. I don't think he plays Mortal Coils in his deck, does he? I don't think we've seen one yet.
No, I didn't remember. Oh, he has 2 of them. It was the other person playing Handlock that cut one of the Mortal Coils. It was Nyria. He cut one of his Mortal Coils.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I would play Belcher here. Just with, like, the context of his hand. Although...
kind of be careful. There is a lot of damage potential.
Yeah, I think Sludge Belcher is the most defensive player, right? I just like it because he uses the mana efficiently. But yeah, Zombie Chow plus
You
Hero
also
Power.
can silence. and kill off the zombie chow to heal.
Yeah, this is super defensive. I mean, this means he'll never play a mountain giant this game. Maybe he's okay with that. He can play one turn 7. This play is not bad though. What Kalender just did, it's fine. It's just like a different way of approaching it.
Well, I like it. It makes zombie chow live instead of a win condition. So
Yeah.
it seems like a good compromise with being defensive while being able to take board position too.
He should not attack here.
Tap.
Tapping is correct because you're definitely going to play Drake, but then you should not attack. Okay, so Holy Nova. What could that accomplish here? You deal with one of the Drakes. Maybe you go with that. There are really just no good options. Like, it's so difficult to interact with Drake. Maybe you just Defender of Argus and go face.
Defender of Argus, but you have to avoid the zombie chow from healing your opponent.
Yeah, you Defender the guys on the left. So you hit him for 10, and then you have Holy Nova. So there's no Holy Fire in this deck. Kalento should know that, because they've seen each other's lists. Man, I'm trying to think of a way that Samiju can win this game. I'm just not seeing it.
I think he needs this to do damage and then draw into a second Akanai. So that way the zombie chow can go for the 5 remaining damage.
That's a good point. The second Akanai is potential burst.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs at the moment. Assuming his opponent can do something about these taunters, which we do know he has Defender in hand.
But yeah, that Defender doesn't let him kill Sludge Belcher anymore. Like, Semiju's Defender of Argus is very clutch here. It makes Kalento's turn so much worse. See, now he's stuck in this position where he just doesn't have time to play Mountain Giants ever. If you have, like, the option of playing Mountain Giant or not playing Mountain Giant, it's almost always better to play it. Now he's just in a really tough spot. Man, Kalento might actually lose this game. That's crazy. I mean, Semiju did have a good curve, but I feel like if either player played this game just slightly differently, it would be so... I don't know, the outcome could completely change. Okay, it's a very defensive play. I like healing the Drake more than healing his face. It's definitely good. He knows he's dead to the second Akanai, but that's only one out in the Priest deck. Any other card, and I think...
Well, there's ways to draw. There's also ways to impact the board. Cabal Shadow Priest can also gain value. Is there a way for him to push through with Holy Nova?
Not that I'm seeing. It is tough, though, to decide between drawing cards and stealing the 2-3. I would probably steal the 2-3 and just hope he doesn't have Shadow Flame. That is a card on Semiju's mind. If you Cabal Shadow Priest this turn and, you know, you get Shadow Flame, you do lose the game. So this is a solid play too, for sure.
Yeah, going for the guaranteed draws. He picks up Shadow or Death, which is important to deal with a giant.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay. Wow, his opponent's at 3 health, but until that counter hits 0 or below, it just feels like 30 for the Priest. You just don't have many ways to burst. Zombie Chow is one of them, but it's going to be hard.
He needs to hold out till turn 10. Like, that mind control is going to put in so much work.
Yeah. Even your Sarah, honestly. If your opponent doesn't have the Siphon Soul or Silence for it, she can also be grabbing Ysera Awakens, Dream even to return Taunters back, Nightmare to push through, and then Laughing Sister to taunt you because obviously you're not going to get any of those cards, lol.
Yeah. Needs to kill that Chow.
Yeah. And it looks like he can push through though, just with one board.
Hmm.
My shield for Argon.
But boy, was it close. One health. My God.
Okay, so this eliminates the. Oh, why is this happening? Anyway, killing Zombie Chow here is gonna eliminate the possibility from Semiju to draw his second Akanai. So now Kalento's not in danger of dying to any draw, and I think this kind of locks Priest out of the game. It might not lock it out of the game, but it definitely makes it hard to win. Like, you definitely Cabal this turn, you have to steal the Defender, you have no other way to use all your mana effectively. Play Loot Hoarder and just pass. And now he's going to hope that the Ysera into Mind Control curve can end up...
Yeah, that's his last hope at the moment.
You know,
And that's assuming he doesn't spend his mana to answer threats, like this Mountain Giant coming out. But I think you definitely have to play more towards how you win rather than just how you answer Handlock, because Handlock has you covered in threats for days.
for sure. I like his decision to kill Northshire Cleric. It's likely the best creature to attack there. Ooh, there's the Akanai. 2 turns
just
earlier.
a little late.
Yeah. 2 turns earlier and Semiju had lethal. Karen's a fine draw though, it lets him develop some board while still dealing with the giant that's in play. And he's got Mind Control next turn.
Yeah, this is actually a play to win the game. You take
Kalento
the
doesn't-
taunt, so that way you have 6 damage to push through. This is assuming your opponent can't do anything to you, though. Still wishful thinking.
Lotheb is gonna lock Oh, he's scared about Black Knight. If he goes Lotheb Faceless, he's dead to Black Knight. But he should know that the Priest doesn't have Black Knight. So knowing Semiju's deck list, the best play here is Lotheb Faceless. Because no play, like, yeah, there's nothing he could do or draw to punish you for it. It's definitely the best play. And then the turn after, you go double Sludge Belcher. Or, yeah. So Faceless Lotheb is, like, it seems aggressive, but if he remembers the list, remembers that there's only one Shadow or Death, one Mind Control.
I wonder.
We'll see how Kalento ends up going with, though. I mean, there are other options this turn. I like the aggressive line of play, though.
I think Kalento was looking at deck list, because I saw a big white on the screen, which obviously Hearthstone is not. So I think he was evaluating the deck list of seeing what his opponent possibly could have before he made a play here. So good observation, right? About like trying to consider all of the options of what his opponent's doing and trying to play around it.
Yeah,
Look
I like
at
his
that.
play, though, for sure. It definitely worked out. Now the question is, do you trade your creatures off to deal with Ancient Watcher? I think you do.
I wonder.
Trade them off, play Sarah. Man, all of these handlock lists that we've seen are just so defensive. Double Defender of Argus, Jiraxis, like, they're trying to slow the game down in a deck that's really meant to be more aggressive. Which, oh wow, he's not playing Ysera. He's playing 6 mana Power Word Shield instead to keep the front half of Cairn alive. Semiju recognizes that Kalento's really low on cards and low on life, so he can't really life tap much more. So he's making the value play that lets him keep the front half of his Cairn alive to try to sort of grind out the Warlock deck. Which is interesting, because when I have a 9 mana card and a 10 mana card in my hand, I just play the 9 mana card. Because then he could Mind Control the following turn. But, I mean, this is fine too, I guess. It's not even a play I consider.
Whoa. That is a big draw, Ray. He drew Lord
that's-
Jiraxis, so he heals back up to 15, and he can clear the board. Oh my goodness, this is a brand new game. I don't even know how Semiju can win from here. He needs a big thing off of Ysera, but has he missed his window of opportunity? Because now Kalento has the direct removal as well. He's got Siphon Soul.
Yeah, no, that's a game. He's locked out.
I don't know what he can do anymore. He's also staring at one of the most problematic minions in all of Hearthstone for Priest, which is Cairn. And the best thing he can do is take him, but that just completely gets destroyed.
Kalento did make a pretty big misplay. He could have gotten in at least 5 or 6 more emotes in this time. But aside from that, Jiraxis
Yeah.
is definitely the right play that turn.
Classic. You know, the Europeans are still behind the North Americans in BM meta. ECOP is trying to lead the forefront and with Forsen, but
They gotta catch up, man.
there are
Those guys
two
are.
out of hundreds who need to catch up here.
Have you ever ventured into the 4-digit ranks of Legend in Europe servers? Every single
Never.
game is turn one Leper Gnome Greetings. Doesn't matter what class. Shaman, turn one Leper Gnome Greetings. Priest,
I
Leper Gnome
believe it.
Greetings. Yeah. It's a different
Yeah.
level of PM.
Shaman, leopard, gnome, greetings.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
dream and
They even call you friend. Oh, Ysera it is. Oh, okay, Emerald Drake. I thought it was going to be Laughing Sister at first. I saw a minion. Emerald Drake is something, but now Jiraxis really has the opportunity to do so much. The Siphon Soul, heal him back up, put a 6/6 on board. And there's no opportunity to like Thought Steal and do something crazy. Semiju needs to draw Sacrificial Pact right here.
Exactly. I was actually looking at Kalento's list to see if he had one for Semi-G to talk to.
To counter other handlocks. That's just way too next level meta. Get destroyed by your counter handlock tech and Warlock by a
I had that
Thought
happen
Steal.
once in the first season of Ranked. I think it was
No,
was
you
it
didn't.
Zixalot or no, it was Era. I had one
He beat
sacrificial
you with
pact.
Sacrificial Pact.
Yeah, because Blood Imp was it was before Blood Imp was nerfed, so like 70% of matchups were Zoo. Well, not Zoo, but like
Right.
a Blood Imp thingy, Murlocs and
Right,
stuff.
right.
So I had one sacrificial pact for the for the handlock mirror, and for Murlocs to kill Flame Imp. And he thought stole it. It was the one priest I'd seen in like 300 games. And I played Jiraxis and he thought stole
That's-
sacrificial pact. And I got wrecked.
Was it on
And, like,
stream?
four months later, it was on Reddit. He screenshot it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Never
That's
again,
awesome.
man. It was the last game Sacrificial Pact has ever been in my deck.
Yeah, for good reason. Now, Kalento actually can't kill his opponent here, which is frustrating, but you're just outpacing your opponent so much with this.
Yeah, I mean, as long as all of Kalento's turns end with the sound effect "job's done" and he used his mana, it's just you can't. There's no way to lose at this point. I don't think. Yeah,
He's still checking deck lists. He's wondering what he could die to.
yeah, it can't hurt to just be triple check, be completely sure that there's nothing that can get you.
Yeah. Especially if this is second Akanai, the burst combat possibility for this deck has dramatically decreased.
Very aggressive play here. Not gonna opt to drop Sludge Belchers, but just play the Mountain Giant. This is why he was double checking to make sure that he wasn't gonna die. A 2-card combination gets him.
Okay, well, Semi-Jude needs something more. Looking at his deck list, I don't see any way. He doesn't even have Sylvanas trigger at the moment. He's already used a lot of his late game cards in Ysera. Sludge Belcher delays the inevitable, but you die next turn anyways. So it looks like Kalento will take this game guaranteed next turn.
Looks
I
like
don't
it,
think he's
yeah.
going to
There's
survive. Yeah.
you go to 13.
Well, he has Hellfire, so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can kill off and heal yourself, and he'll be slightly out of range. You kill off this 6/6 Inferno, heal yourself up, and you'll be slightly out of range. But then Kalento has the extra push for damage.
Yep. Well, I think yeah, well played by both players. It looked a little rough. Excuse me. It looked a little rough for Kaleno for a while there because he was vulnerable to the second Akanai Soul Priest if that got top decked. But in the end, he ended up pulling it out. Semiju didn't draw his second Akanai in that 2-turn window of opportunity, and Kaleno pulls it out, take the lead, 2-1.
All right. Well, Kalento will end it pretty quietly, just saying well played. A little disappointed, but like we said, Europeans are behind North Americans in this department. And Kalento will take game 3, and his handlock able to hold it against the priest, which is pretty nice. As previously, his handlock did not do well against the paladin deck. So
Definitely.
Semi-Jew's been really avoiding his Warlock deck. When we see Warlock seems to be one of the priorities for play in most series. You know, the Kaldi, Freshka, we saw it being played very often in Zoo vs. Zoo. And then Handlock for Nyria, and now Handlock for Kalento. So I believe you're right. All indications point to Semi-Jew bringing Zoo here, and he doesn't want it to be played against Priest or Handlock.
Absolutely. I wonder if I mean, we'll just see what they go with. Even if if Semi-Ju had Zoo, I might just bust it out anyway. I might do just fine against Priest. You never know.
No, it is Handlock. So he avoided playing this for a long time.
Oh, it's the dream. Keep the faceless. Keep the faceless. Nice. Okay, so Semi-Ju's going first, which is a big advantage here. Unless Kalento draws the second Twilight Drake, in which case going second is an advantage for Kalento. He should, well, he could keep the Earthen Ring if you're Kalento. It's
Right, you're on the coin, so you had the extra ability to drop something. Otherwise, you're passing. So Farseer is something to do on turn 3.
yeah, sometimes just doing nothing is even better than playing Farseer though, because playing Farseer, I mean, it just dies to the Drake attack on 4
Right.
or on 5 rather. But Semi-Ju doesn't know, or Kalento doesn't know that Semi-Ju has a Drake rather than a Giant. So now as for coin life tap, because Kalento's hand is so good, coin life tap in this case is actually not right, because you'd rather have a coin than a random card. Having that coin is going to let him Siphon Soul on turn 5 if he draws one of the 2 copies of that. That's definitely an option he wants to have available to him. This matchup's like all about tempo. Neither of them play Leroy, so it's actually going to make the mid game super weird.
Right. There's no actual threat of burst sometimes where your opponent can die, other than just power overwhelming on board and Soulfire. So
yeah.
Which, oh, that's right. Kalento doesn't run power overwhelming because there's no Leroy in his deck. Semi-Ju's the one who has power overwhelming.
He does. It's interesting to note that he's playing power overwhelming without Leroy. It's not bad. It's just different, unexpected.
Does he have Sylvanas in his deck? Like maybe he's playing a much more control oriented, and then you have like Sylvanas and the option to like give her power overwhelming or something, and then she dies at the end of the turn. You steal. Ah, she does. Look at that. It's an old school handlock deck, like super old school.
Yeah. So
Nice. Start the Giant Wars. Ooh,
okay, faceless.
I don't like Drake in this position.
Yeah, he definitely faceless. Faceless trade. Okay, good play. Both players have played and mulliganed correctly so far, which is good. That's Handlock's just such an easy deck to make a mistake with. That's good to see. So he didn't draw one of his 2 siphons, which is a bit unlucky. He definitely would rather be coin siphoning here rather than just copying Mountain Giant. But he does have Shadow Flame, so it's not like Semi-Ju can just let Kalento's Giant live. Oh, yeah, so Semi-Ju has double Siphon and a Giant on board. This is where he's kind of locked out of the game, because if Kalento doesn't draw Siphon, Semi-Ju's just going to run away with the game. He's dealing 8 a turn and killing Kalento's play for 2 turns in a row. That's huge. But without the burst, it's so awkward because, like, it used to be that if you put your opponent at 15 in the handlock mirror, you just win, because you just kill them with Leroy if you have a creature that sticks. But now, you have no burst, so you still have to, like, deal the last 15 points of damage without a charge minion. And that exposes you to Molten Giant. So, how do you kill the handlock opponent when you can't attack them once they're below 15, or else they'll Giant you? Maybe you just do it anyway and try to Shadow Flame them? I don't know.
You play Arcane Golems, which you do. But none of these guys seem to have opted to go for charges whatsoever as an alternative.
This is a heads up play. A lot
Sci-
of people would just siphon here. It's good to go Drake Owl. You still develop the board, but you save your siphon.
Oh,
Probably.
he could have discarded it off the Soulfire, but ends up losing something else instead, so works out in his favor. Does Jiraxis become a factor at all in the mirror, other than those very late game scenarios where like threats been answered perfectly? Does it
No.
ever come into play earlier than that?
I think it's just a dead card, but I might be wrong about that. I mean, if you're like ahead on board extremely far, like you're like really far ahead, and you're gonna win anyway, then Jiraxis could be played. But in those games, I don't think it's gonna make the difference between winning or losing. It'll just mean you win with Jiraxis instead of winning without Jiraxis.
Nice. It still counts the portrait for the golden hero, so yeah, a win's
That's awesome.
a win. All right.
Oh, these
well-
are friendly matches, though. You don't get the portrait games.
Oh, you're right.
I'm salty about that, too.
Yeah. Well, if Blizzard did that, it would keep the bots away, probably. Bots would just farm against each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome, Blizzard. You can keep that one. How to solve all your bot problems. Oh, Kalento. Coin Jiraxis. I mean, he's got 2 Shadow Flames. So the opportunity to use Inferno Shadow Flame for big, powerful swings if he draws anything else is available.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. I mean, there are a few cards that could threaten Semi-Jew the way that Jiraxis threatens him right now. It's just, it's not something he can ignore. But what I would have done is play my own Jiraxis here. I don't really like... I mean, yeah, if you life tap, you get to play Mountain Giant or whatever, but if you play Jiraxis, it doesn't matter that you can never play Molten Giant, because like card disadvantage won't matter anymore once you're making 6/6s every turn.
Yeah.
You could have also just played Sylvanas, which I think was also better than Molten. Maybe not. I mean, Molten's less vulnerable to Shadow Flame. This play was fine. I think all 3 plays were actually made a lot of sense. Against Kalento's hand specifically, Molten Giant is actually the best play.
Yeah, Kalento doesn't have an easy way to deal with this Giant at the moment. Only can set up a wall of taunts. Well, it seems like Kalento is just going to go for this defensive taunt play, which is reasonable, but like we mentioned, it could be easily swept through like a shadow flame play and then push for damage. In fact, there's a very real possibility that he could die next turn. The sequence of cards like Power Overwhelming, Shadow Flame, and then like a Soulfire to end the game.
I wonder.
All right, back over to Semi-Jew. What does he have? We do know he does run the power. He does have Shadow Flame in hand, but no power. Does he have a way to win this turn?
So
Oh man, he's
Shadow
1
Flames.
damage.
Excuse me.
Silence. Siphon. Yeah.
Siphon Soul. He was 1 damage off killing his opponent. Oh wow, he used the Shadow Flame to steal the 7-2. This is nice heads up play. Attack and put his opponent at 4. Kalento's in big trouble.
How much does Molten cost for him now? It's minus 13, so like 7 mana if you were to draw it.
It's minus 11, so it's 9.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you couldn't Shadow Flame that if you.
Yeah.
I wonder.
But if you had 2 summoning portals, it would cost 5.
That's true. Or you could Soulfire yourself in the face.
Yeah. Make it even cheaper for sure. Kalento has 2 taunters, but gosh, how do you win from this position? You can't even like Shadow Flame a Infernal and then play a Sludge Belcher, just try and survive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a solution. You have to go Belcher, and pray, I guess. He probably can't win anymore though. You have to like maybe it was right to Infernal Belcher and Sun Fury. I don't know.
Either way, he's got silence to push through the last creature.
Yep. Semi-Jew ties it up.
Right. Why not? Handlock mirrors, and the handlock hasn't been that successful for Kalento, but I believe this is his third time playing it. So he can't use it anymore, and will now have to turn to his Paladin or Priest. Which honestly is okay, because Paladin's still pretty decent.
Semi-Jew wins, but his world is still doomed. Let's see if he sticks with Handlock after this. You don't have to worry about the mirror match anymore. I would just keep playing Handlock, honestly. I think it's good enough against Paladin, and I think it destroys Priest, so... We'll see.
Yeah, I think the Paladin's pretty good overall, but now that Handlock's been removed, like Priest is suddenly a much stronger pick from Sammy Jew.
Are you comfortable just playing like a Priest mirror?
Not against. Actually, it's a control Priest, you're right? So the control priest does tend to own the Tempo Priest.
I kind of like Tempo Priest in that matchup. Because Tempo Priest has the double Blade Master, which Priest, like in the Priest mirror, I think Blade Master is the best card. Because if you draw it with Circle, it's just like a free win. There's no way to interact with it.
Yeah, but Control Priest also runs injured too. Not to mention that it's got like Pyromancer clears. Yeah.
I didn't
it runs both Dark Cultist and injured.
Ah, okay. My mistake. I thought Kalento wasn't playing it. I thought he just played Cultist.
Oh, you could be right though. Kalento might have identified it out, but let me pull it up and see. Continue though. Sorry, I was interrupting.
Yeah. Either way, I think Priest or Handlock are both good options for him. Paladin, I don't love as a choice here because that's just going to lose to Kalento's Priest if he ends up going with that.
Yeah, Kalento's Priest does run into Blade Master too. I feel like Control Priests do end up siding for it because you do rely a lot on circle combos with even things like Pyromancer, so it makes sense. All right, let's go into Game 5 and see what classes are available. We've kind of talked about a few lines that these guys could take. And it seems like Paladin is going to be chosen by Kalento, while Priest is a pretty strong selection overall based off of what you were analyzing before. I personally think that the Tempo Priest is just, like, I thought it was really start dependent for a while, and then I saw like the new rendition with Ysera and Mind Control, and it just feels overall like a very well-rounded deck. And I've been impressed with how it's been able to perform recently, even though on first I was kind of hating on it, I'll admit it.
Yeah, it's a fine deck. Still not a fan of Loot Hoarder, but aside from that, it's definitely a strong deck.
Yeah, I mean, Loot Hoarder is it's a loss in tempo. It's a loss in tempo for card advantage, but you don't really have a much better 2-drop minion. Like, are you gonna use Haunted Creeper?
Yeah, there's really no option. Like, Haunted Creeper is probably even less good for the Priest. Oh man, that turn 2 Pyromancer. Crushing the Northshire Cleric Dream. Just merciless.
Yeah,
it's going to take out one of Semi-Jew's best cards in this matchup. So is Semi-Jew playing Thoughtsteal or not? I don't
believe so.
So that's actually going to make his Paladin matchup much, much worse. And Glennis had a great start here. He had his only, like, 2-drop to be able to deal with Northshire Cleric. So he's, you know, Semi-Jew's not just going to run away with the game on cards. He's going to scale better than the Priest overall. His Paladin does have answers to Ysera. He does have 1 silence, he has 2 equality. As long as he doesn't have to burn equality before turn 9, he's going to be able to deal with Ysera and then win the game that way. But oh man, like when you lose board control against Paladin as Tempo Priest, how do you possibly catch up?
Circle plays are the only one you can hope on. Yeah, but there's nothing available to Semi-Jew here.
This is so brutal. Like, there's just nothing he can do. Yeah, the thing with Tempo Priest is it's so minion heavy. You don't play cards like Holy Smite. You have one Holy Nova. Like when you fall behind on board like this, you have to Akanai Circle or you lose the game.
Yep.
And he just doesn't have Akanai Circle.
Yeah, that was the primary reason why I felt like, personally, I was like, wow, there's just way too much momentum. And if you lose it early on to like something as simple as Fiery War Axe to disrupt you, like from a warrior, or in this case, a Wild Pyromancer plus a Shaded Naxxramas, seizing it back, it seems like it's impossible. What a big shot with Kodo, 6 damage off its Battle Cry. This is insane start for the Paladin, and Priest is in a very difficult spot. This Shaded Naxxramas, by the way, not going to die anytime soon, so playing whatever creature comes out immediately gets contested to die.
Kodo Baggins, straight from the Shire. Just the card just destroys Priest so bad. Like, how do you beat?
It's not a Hobbit at all, but that's pretty hilarious,
like,
dude.
well, it's not a Kodo either, apparently.
Oh man,
knows what
I'll
that's
have to
a
consult
picture of.
Freshka on that. Wow.
Oh man. Well, just got to run out a Akanai. That kind of eliminates his chance to draw a circle.
Well,
I mean, I
you're in a
guess I
pretty
was-
good spot. I mean,
Would you Humility? There's probably not too many great Humility targets in the Priest deck, aside from, like, Cairn. So I guess you Humility to keep your neck Shade alive and then play Lotheb. Then you're ridiculously far ahead on board. I mean, maybe that's overcommitting, but I don't think it is.
no, he just used Akanai, so he can't even Akanai circle the following turn because Lotheb and plus his Akanai is dead.
I have no time for games.
I mean, Sylvanas is a fine play too. Honestly, whatever he does, as long as he keeps clearing the board of Priest, then there's going to be scenarios where Semiji's holding cards like Circle and Power Word Shield where he can't do anything. But fortunately, he's also drawn the better end of his deck, so he's got things to do as opposed to just holding.
All right, so Semiji's just gonna drop Cairn in response. It's cool to see that, like, since Priest has become more popular in tournament play, Cabal Shadow Priest has gradually gotten less and less value. As everyone's just playing around. I mean, not that anything specifically this game Kolento held off on, but just in terms of like deck building and letting Cabal Shadow Priest get value on turn 6, I've almost never seen it happen in the past like week and a half. Maybe it's time to start cutting one of those cards or something. Because I just see it being played as Yeti most of the time, right?
Right, people are playing, like making sure to hold on to their Harvest Golems and being very meticulous to buff out of range, like we saw with like Cruel Taskmaster on it. So yeah, it's good observation. And the one Cabal Shadow Priest feels like it's core because you always have to have the threat of it. Not to mention just its insane value potential. But I definitely agree with what you're saying here.
Do you run the Lotheb in and become vulnerable to Holy Nova, or do you just trade the Sylvanas?
Let none survive.
I don't want to open up the Holy Nova for sure.
Yeah, I
Although
like this play.
honestly, at this stage, you feel really comfortable. Yeah, I think you represent the lethal here too. Your opponent probably has an opportunity to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean that should do it. I mean, there's no lack of thought steal really hurt him here. If he could have thought stolen a Humility or an Eldor Peacekeeper, he could have dealt with Tyrion. He could have dealt with Sylvanas, just these bigger threats. But without thought steal, like cards like Ysera and Mind Control just not that good. You don't really have time to play them. I mean, although to be fair, Kolento had the absolute perfect draw to beat what Semiju's draw was. There are certain games where, with the way cards line up, one deck just has almost no chance of winning. I think in order for Semiju to have won this game, he would have had to like not play Northshire Cleric turn 1, which would have not let Wild Pyromancer kill it for free. That turn 1, turn 2 is what resulted in the game happening the way that it did. Like, if he could have drawn, a bunch of cards off of that, maybe it would have been a bit different. But yeah, the Paladin draw was just perfect this game.
Well, Kolento can't kill him yet, but can basically front a checkmate and force Semi-Ju to have something to respond to, or else he just dies, which we don't think he has. I think it's a good analysis. The card engine draw is still important for Priest, and you do see that Semi-Ju has cards. It's just that he didn't get to play a lot of them. In fact, he was often having very meager responses. This Northshire Cleric's almost it's almost fitting. It's poetic for how this game began and ended. Wouldn't you agree, Reynad?
Yeah, definitely. It's just maybe if that Karen was a Sylvanas or something like that. It's just such a good draw from Paladin in terms of curve and all that.
I guess if we're playing that hypothetical,
Yeah.
maybe if that Karen was a lot of things, that wasn't just the Karen to be really passive on the board. So this game is going to end, and we go to game 6, where Kolento has a 3-2 edge, and he still has the opportunity to continue playing Paladin or his Priest, but his Paladin seems to be good against the 3 decks that Semi-Ju brings.
Absolutely.
Now, Semi-Ju is played, I believe, every class twice, or almost every class twice. So he still can play any lineup here. That's right, twice with the Priest, twice with Paladin, once with Handlock.
And Kalento can't play Warlock anymore, so I guess knowing that Kalento can't play Warlock anymore, if I'm Semi-Ju, I would just play Handlock. If I'm anyone, I would just play Handlock always. It's just so good. Although, yeah, I don't know. Semi-Ju's list is a little... I don't know. Like the double Siphon, double Defender. Or sorry, one Defender in Semi-Ju's list. I like the Sylvanas. He is playing a Ragnaros, which is interesting. Ragnaros is actually the absolute worst card to play in a mirror match for Handlock. But now that Kaleno doesn't have access to his own Warlock anymore, Ragnaros becomes a pretty good card because, the Priest deck just not going to have enough Shadow or Deaths to kill everything. The Paladin deck is trying to deal with big creatures with cards like Humility and Aldor Peacekeeper. That's not really going to stop the Ragnaros in Semi-Ju's Warlock deck. So, yeah, I think all signs point to that being his deck of choice here.
All right. Well, I agree. I think it's in his best interest to go about that route. Let's go into game 6 in just a second. But while we have a brief interlude between games, let's remind you guys about the offer you see on the overlay. This is a Prismata Cup number 2, sponsored by Prismata.net, and they are giving away beta keys. All you have to do is type PJ Salt in honor of the Salt Cannon Twitch chat. Go to prismata.net/beta. It's a turn-based strategy game. I don't know if you got a chance to play it all right now, but it looks kind of
like
cool. There was like
yeah, it's like
lasers
card-based.
Yeah.
There are lasers. That's how I know it's a good game. So, yeah, it's like
futuristic and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It looked pretty sweet. I don't know, I'm a big fan of just strategy games in general. I mean, if you're a fan of like Hearthstone, maybe Magic, maybe if you've played stuff like Hex or Soulforge, even just like Civ 5, it's just like another strategy game that looks pretty cool. I'm a big fan of games that aren't reliant on like graphics, you know what I mean? Where that's like the major selling point. Prismata seems to really focus on gameplay.
So you hate games made before 2012, basically, you hate any game made after 2012, basically.
I hate games where, graphics are like the major selling point. On Steam, most games are gameplay focused lately, but it's like Titanfall versus Fire Emblem, I guess. I like Fire Emblem more.
Oh, did you play the new Fire Emblem, by the way?
I haven't played one
Fire.
since Game Boy SP was the newest thing.
All right.
Played the
when you move to
originals.
California, I'll lend it to you. You have to try it. It's
I
really
heard they're
nice. The new one is great. I think it's a great modern adaptation, and the graphics are pretty good too.
Oh, sweet. I should get a GameCube too. You can play Smash, and I can get the Fire Emblem that's for GameCube.
All right, guys, we're stalling obviously because we have a few seconds here, but I hope you guys enjoy our little dive of nostalgia. Game 6 between Kalento and Semi-Ju is about to begin. I believe Semi-Ju has queued up his Handlock, so he's gonna take your line of thought, and it makes sense to keep his options flexible for what could be the final game, so that way he doesn't lock out one class if he feels like he needs to play it again.
Shall be mine. I will fight with honor.
Paladin versus Handlock. All right. I like Semi-Ju's pick. Let's see if Paladin can deal with it. So far, it hasn't been able to. I don't like Kalento's keeping Senjin here. I don't think that's going to offer very much for him. I think you just need to aggressively maul for Humility, Peacekeeper, and Equality. And all your other cards are... No, it doesn't really matter what support cards you draw after those cores. Or after those core cards.
Okay, well, he does have the double nerf cards where he's got Aldor, Peacekeeper, and Humility, so yeah, at least he's just missing Equality to complete the Triumvirate.
Yep, so... Looks like Semi-Jew's going first here. It's definitely an advantage for Handlock. As the Handlock, I definitely prefer going first, almost always. There we go. He's got his 4-drop. He was missing that, so it's a very important draw to get Mountain Giant right there. And the second best card in his hand, actually, is Ironbeak Owl. So that's going to be able to deal with the Humility or the Aldor Peacekeeper effect from Kalento.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Giant does end up getting back that 8 attack, rather. Now, that usually encourages the Paladin player as a result that once they use Peacekeeper, they attack. So at best, it's an 8-4 if it gets restored back.
I think I like putting some damage onto the Giant here. Yep.
Yep.
And I think I would also trade the 1/1 in so that any Mortal Coil Semi-Jew drew would be a blank for at least this turn.
Well, look at that. If
Semi-Jew
he
doesn't
has the
actually play
opportunity to
Mortal Coil.
play Drake, it gets silenced as well. There's flexibility here from what both Kalento and Semi-Jew have in their hands.
This is an interesting turn. I think just Drake is the best play. Drake, no attack. Next turn you go for the Watcher Shadow Flame. So yeah, they've seen deck lists, so Kalento knows Semi-Jew doesn't have Mortal Coil, so attacking face with the 1/1 actually makes a lot more sense. That's a really aggressive Soulfire. I really like trying to set up the turn 6 Shadow Flame play, but I don't think Kalento would have exposed himself to that. He probably would have played around it, so I guess Soulfiring makes some sense.
Seems like he's trying to really deny the ability for his opponent to collect easy value off Ironbeak Owl. So Semi-Jew was playing around that, and it makes total sense.
It's really tempting to Peacekeeper the Drake here and kill it for free, but you gotta save the Peacekeeper and Humilities for the big guys, for sure. Semi-Jew can silence his Mountain Giant and attack for 8, but it doesn't really... Or sorry, he used the Owl. My mistake.
No,
So
he
just...
lost in the Soulfire.
I wonder if life tapping there was as good as just playing Watcher and Shadow Flaming. I guess he's just gonna trade, yeah, there's no reason to Shadow Flame. Develop the board, trade. It's a fine play.
As long as you're controlling the board away from Paladin, they can't continue to press with Equality Consecration combos of some sort. Seems pretty decent. And your hand's not even that great anyways, so to have control of the board when you don't have a good quality hand is the most important thing. Otherwise, you're just going to be reacting every single time and you don't have the ability to take initiative.
So I think most of the games we've seen so far, the Handlock has kind of run away against Paladin. By just developing some early big guys and the Paladin not really having too many answers. But like in this case, Kalento's been able to deal with Semi-Jew's early aggression pretty well. And he's getting to a stage in the game where he can develop the board and deal with a threat from Semi-Jew every turn, which is definitely like looking better for Kalento here than I think it would for Paladin most of the time in this matchup. Which is definitely good for him. He's considering Power Overwhelming to remove rather than Faceless on the Sludge Belcher, which is a fine play.
Well,
I
it
guess I would just
seizes you
play-
back the board, but just play an Ancient Watcher here.
Would you play both or just one? Probably don't need both, I guess. The second one doesn't really do anything that the first one doesn't for you.
Yeah, but I guess in the same thought, it's not in a board that's worth getting a quality on yet. So it's just
It will
clogging
be
your hand if you
eventually.
draw something else better.
It is making Mountain Giant cheaper though
I
if you
have
draw the
no
second
time
one.
for games.
That is true.
Makes the second Twilight Drake a little bigger.
It might be relevant off this draw, in fact. But I'm not sure. Meanwhile, Kalento drops Sylvanas, and he has ability to collect value with his Kel'Thuzad.
Oh, that owl draw. Oh man,
Wow.
that's huge. Iron Beak Owl is just like Handlock's best card in this matchup. And that's the second one. Very, very clutch draw.
Doesn't have a way to deal with Tyrion, though. Right now that he lost both owls. But Tyrion might not
Yeah,
ever come to be in effect, but just keep that in mind.
he does have the Faceless, which sort of deals with it. I mean, any big like finisher legendary, Faceless is really strong against. We'll see if Kalento opts to Holy Light here. I mean, he could Pyro Holy Light. He could just develop a 5/6. You know what I would do? I would just play Kel'Thuzad and make him spend his next turn siphoning. Because quite frankly, I don't think the value from that card matters in this matchup. But I guess Kalento doesn't really have any other finishers in his hand, so... And his Paladin deck is pretty low curve compared to others. So I guess it's important to save Kel'Thuzad to end the game. It's not like other Paladin lists with Ysera and Nixia and stuff where you can afford to just kind of throw your finisher out.
I wonder.
Yeah, that is a good point. Now, playing this Drake does now make it to the point where you really feel a strong incentive to go for a board clear for Paladin. You're killing off 5 potential minions here. Oh
Yeah,
my.
he's not going to Sun Fury because he's worried about just overextending into an equality turn. Oh, and that Black Knight draw.
Kalento doesn't have a quality, though.
He
He's just
doesn't.
got Holy Light.
Let me.
Yeah, but he's going to well, I guess he doesn't have 2 spells. If he's willing to use the Humility, he can make some plays with Holy Light here. You attack the... Okay, you Pyro, Humility, the Twilight Drake, attack it, and then Holy Light your 5/6. And then Semiju's left with just a couple Watchers at 4/3 left on the board. I don't know if that's the best play, but I don't really see another play that's really worth it.
Yeah, that's not too bad considering that you still have ways to deal with big threats like Black Knight against a Taunted Giant, and you still have the Peacekeeper, so this one's a little bit more liberal.
This is a good play. Yeah, because the Holy Light brings your guy to full health anyway, so there's no reason to Humility the Drake over the Watcher.
Sure.
Might as well have the Watcher be at lower attack. Can't hurt. He's gonna save his Pyromancer in case he does draw a quality. Still has 2 of those in the deck, I think.
All right. Giant number 1.
Yeah.
1 of 2.
Handlock does have initiative now. I might play Lotheb.
Why would you play Lotheb over Molten Giant?
Because you're gonna take damage at some point. You want to punish him for attacking you, whereas Lotheb's always gonna cost 5. Molten Giant like costs less the longer the game goes on. You could go like Lotheb and then taunt the 4/3 and the 1/3. I guess Lotheb would have gotten wrecked because he would Kel'Thuzad. Maybe Giant's just
or
better.
even worse. Yeah, actually, you're right. Kel'Thuzad would have completely got the trades down. Kalento can deal with this Giant through just Peacekeeper and set up a pretty good board where he has an opportunity to get value off Kel'Thuzad. That might prompt Semiju to finally go for a Shadow Flame clear. He's been holding the Shadow Flame for quite some time now.
Yeah, he's already seen 2 owls. And Elder Peacekeeper is just big game hunter at this point. Not quite as good, but good enough.
Big Game Hunter summon a 1/8.
Yeah, exactly.
Reporting for duty.
Big game over Spark. Does he just go face? Probably not. No, there's no
You
way.
don't have a really. You don't have a quality.
I mean, with the True Silver, like, we've already seen one Molten. I guess he might as well go face. If he taunts his creatures, you're gonna have to attack him at that point anyway. So
Well, if you taunt a creature, you have Black Knight.
only one though. That only deals
One
with one of
is-
the taunts.
Yeah. And Semiju will make sure to not taunt his giant. The 2 mana cost one, that is, the one that's fresh and healthy. Shadow Flame it is.
Yeah. I really want a life tap, but you have too many 5-drops in hand to be able to afford to do that. I like his decision to play Sludge Belcher here for sure.
Alright, well, Black Knight coming out now.
Yep.
No other play here. Clento needs to dig through a lot more of his deck. His Acolyte needs to get some draws.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know about the attack on the token there, but I guess it's fine.
There's still a giant. And actually, there's 2 with 1 attack creatures, so you're okay with it. And there's no more owls. Opponent needs to siphon soul this Acolyte to deny it value.
Has Clento seen a single equality yet?
No.
Interesting. It's a very low curve Paladin control deck. A lot of the lists we've seen today have been a lot greedier. This is more of a mid-rangey one. A couple of Shade and Extramus, just kind of slowing the game down, but not really having an insane late game. No Ysera's, nothing like that. So his draws are going to be a little bit less impactful off the top than some of the other Paladin decks we've seen today.
Alright, well, now that Black Knight's out, you feel much more inclined to use Sun Fury on a big giant here, so you're okay with it.
Yep, he's
Wow.
definitely going to Soulfire that too. It's very aggressive. He wants to... Oh, his hand is so good. I don't want to discard any of those cards. That might have been the best card for him to discard, honestly.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess so. Kel'Thuzad still... I guess you could kill off with the giant, still should be okay. Oh, quality draw for Clento, finally!
Yep. Do you
Well, look
play
at
it
this.
now? You definitely start by attacking, see what you draw, because it's going to die anyway. Sludge Belcher. I mean, you could... I don't think Semiju's going to overextend if you play Sludge Belcher. Yeah, you should definitely quality. Alright, Semiju's down to 10 life, 4 cards. Let's see if he even has the damage left. I mean, is there a Jiraxis in that deck?
No, he's got Ragnaros. He's got Ragnaros, and he's got Jiraxis.
He's going to have 2 Ragnaros in a second. And Sylvanas Shadow Flame can deal with Tyrion.
Oh, that's so nasty. Well, hey, actually, the bug still exists, doesn't it? Where if Ragnaros shoots Kel'Thuzad, in fact, Kel'Thuzad will come back, because Ragnaros was played first.
Oh, they never fixed that?
I don't know, they didn't listen to patch notes. That would be quite unfortunate if that ended up being a case where Kel'Thuzad kept reviving himself as well as every single creature that gets hit.
I think in the end, just the Ragnaros, the late game finishers, just ended up going over the top of what Clento's deck could do. I mean, he slowed the game down, but he didn't have the finishers in his deck to go over the top.
Yeah, it seems like the quality never able to get himself to press for the damage. Gosh.
I mean,
His best chance of survival is actually Kel'Thuzad hero power, and I think this is actually going to be a funny situation where...
yeah, his best chance
was
of
talking
surviving is the bug still existing. If the bug is still in the game where Kel'Thuzad can take a shot and then revive itself, then I think Clento could win the game.
Yeah, I think it is still live, but I could be wrong.
Might just get Shadow Flame too, and yeah, don't you just Sylvanas
yeah.
Shadow Flame and kill him, I
So,
guess.
yeah, you just steal it. Wow, that's
I
awesome.
have no time for games.
Sylvanas is still so good in this handlock deck. Shame that people took it out for a while, but it made sense.
Well,
The
we'll
meta
never
was too
know.
slow. Yeah. Wow, you get
We'll never
Sylvanas
know.
back too. Oh, it doesn't matter. Game's over. You have the exact damage to kill him.
And
Not
I
bad.
have no time for games.
Not bad at all. Semiju ties it up and sends it to game 7. We have ourselves an ace match between these two players where the winner goes on the semifinals to play Nyria. Which could be a preview if Kalento wins, because Kalento and Nyria did advance to DreamHack Stockholm, which is happening later this weekend. In fact, I'm flying out. My flight's in like 5 hours, so hopefully Prismata Cup doesn't go too long.
Oh, nice, man.
I
My
need to catch
flight's in like
flight to
24
DreamHack.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, so Sammy Jew's played all of his decks 2 times. He has access to anything, and he knows that Kaleno has to pick either Priest or Paladin, because each deck can only be played 3 times. I guess I would go with Handlock again if I were Sammy Jew, and if I were Kaleno. Kalento's deck, his Priest deck, it's Control Priest, right? There's no Undertaker or anything?
Yeah, it's a slower priest. Northshire clerics, you're only 1-cost minion. You don't, or I don't think you. Does he run Zombie Chow in it? Let me look. Some control priests have eliminated Zombie Chow completely. Yeah, there's no Zombie Chow. It's Silence and Holy Smite.
Maybe it could beat Handlock. I mean, it does have a Silence. It has 2 Shadow or Deaths. I think Kalento's best chance is Priest, honestly. Paladin's like okay against Handlock, but you have to assume that that's what Sammy G's gonna pick. It's just better than Paladin or Priest. It's better than walking into a potential mirror match.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I still feel like Paladin is your best shot overall, though. But
If he picks
I think
Paladin,
you do suspect Handlock, though.
if Sammy G picks Paladin and Kalento picks Priest, he can't win.
No, well, I think the Paladin's his best shot then overall. Let's go into Game 7 and see what's going to be for Kalento versus Semiju. A winner gets a spot in the semifinals for Prismatic Cup number 2.
I will.
And it will be a Paladin Mirror matchup, which gives a 50-50 here, assuming the deck lists are even. Now, we could be in for a very long game. In fact, DreamHack Stockholm might start by the time this game ends.
Oh,
I hope
man.
you're ready to cast him a plane.
Well, I think Sammy Jew is heavily favored in this matchup because Kalento's deck is just very low curve, whereas actually no, they're both a bit mid-rangey, very similar lists. Okay, never mind. I take that back. It's kind of neutral. I don't think it favors either player.
Well, I look for swing cards like Black Knight / Harrison that could potentially play a role into the board position. And then Kalento also has Shade of Naxxramas, which is always an X factor in my opinion in control matchups because of the way it can take out
That's
like
true.
a big heavy couple of cards and it might get way out of control.
For duty.
Sammy Jew has Big Game Hunter, which is completely useless against Kalento's deck. Kalento has Black Knight, which is very good, I think, in the matchup. Sammy Jew has Harrison. Yeah, they both have a few swing cards. I think it looks pretty even. It'll just come down to draws, mostly. Cairn is definitely a card you want to see from both sides, I think. Oh, he didn't coin Consecrate. Wow. So if you're Kalento,
Doesn't-
do you just sit on that, like, all game?
Yeah. Well, not all game, obviously, but you sit
Yeah.
on it until necessary. I mean, this is pretty much a stock portfolio. You know, pre-2008.
Yeah. 12% growth every turn or something.
Yeah. You've been studying some finance classes. Good for you, dude.
No, I haven't. I just threw a number out there. Just like
No.
streaming.
I wasn't sure if that's the current rate or something nowadays. I don't know. My life is Hearthstone. I have no time for money.
Yeah,
Let me.
I feel you there.
No worries.
Well, Kalento's trying to decide whether to make a dude, play a true silver. I guess you make a dude.
I must move quickly.
yeah, there's no
awesome.
pressure whatsoever. You're expecting what next turn from your opponent? True Silver Champions? Senjin, maybe? No, you know his deck list. I don't think he runs Senjins.
They both play 2 Senjin, I think.
Oh, they do? Okay. We've seen several paladins, so wasn't exactly sure on it.
Yeah, there've been a lot of them. These two paladins are very closely, like, yeah, they're built almost the same. There's a difference of a couple cards. Kalento plays like 2 Shade and Extremis and a Black Knight, where Semiju plays a Harrison instead of the Black Knight, and like a Farseer and a Big Game Hunter. Aside from that, yeah, 1 Acolyte of Pain. I wonder if these players looked at each other, or like prepared together. Kalento has an
Kalento
Owl,
and
Semiju
Semiju?
doesn't. Yeah, I mean, the lists are almost identical. That's like very interesting. 1 Spellbreaker, 2 Senjin.
I feel like for the most part, though, control paladins have adopted a general set of cards, and then you have a few flexible spots, whether it's like your second Kodo, whether or not you're including some 3 drops or you're scaling later into the game. So it feels pretty much similar across the board. It's like Shaman in a sense, where like Shaman has so many key cards that a lot of it doesn't feel replaceable. Like, how are you gonna ever replace Consecration, Choose Over Champion, etc.?
Yeah, that's true.
Peacekeeper. All right.
Well,
This Shades is gonna get out of control, by the way.
yeah, Kalento can't sit on it too long, because eventually Semiju could just equality before Kalento gets even 1 attack out of it. But, you know, it doesn't have it doesn't have a, like, the equality here to go with the Consecration. Just gonna Consecration anyway. I guess that makes some sense. Whenever Shade and Extremis does come out of hiding, you can, of course, Aldor Peacekeeper it or Humility it, but that only deals with it for a little while. It does continue to grow
Yeah.
after that.
Shade and Extremis is it's just gonna, you can't kill it. It'll just come back almost equally as strong. Still holding on to it though, for a good reason. There's no real value immediately.
Oh, wow. That Sylvanas draw is like the best card in his deck he could have seen.
Yeah, Sylvanas is great against this kind of board. Either one you're okay with taking.
So that is gonna put Semiju in a pretty commanding spot, actually. You can't really trade the Sylvanas off immediately, because Kalento's not going to attack with the Shade, but... that is not what Kalento wanted to see. He doesn't... Like, neither player has equality, that's the thing. So, Sylvanas on a board with a Cairn is just the best thing in the world.
You might have to ignore it.
Man, if Semiju drew any other card in his deck, this game would be so different. And Sylvanas is just so hard to interact with mid-rangey decks like this.
Yeah, but if you play Aldor and then like your Senjin, I feel like you can, and that, or even just hero powering and trying to give her a bad target. She's still going to be waiting for a while before her value picks off, and you're not sure if she gets something good. The big wild card is whether or not she ends up taking something like the Shades and Extremis.
Yeah. I think you... Oh, man. And Kalento can't... Like, you can't play around the onboard Sylvanas and a potential quality turn. So he's going to guarantee letting Sylvanas suicide if it wants to. Interesting. That's a good play, because then it's just a mind control at random for 6 mana, which is
It's a
passable.
mind control tech. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me
He can... Yeah, okay. So do you... I don't know, do you suicide it in if you're Semiju?
If you do you Kodo first? Reduce the chances?
You definitely Kodo if you do. Then you get
2
pretty
out of
much
3,
all
you're
good
pretty
things.
happy with what comes out. If he gets the Aldor Peacekeeper, though, you toss in a well met.
Let none survive.
All right, what's it gonna be, Ray? Taking the Cairn?
Oh!
All right. Medium result.
Yeah, not the best. Well, I guess you just hero power then.
reporting for duty.
Well,
Kalento now
Semiju.
can respond to it immediately.